Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Hitting Bags and Stealing Balls. Today is Monday, April 28th, 2025, and we have our May Power Rankings. All right, look, guys, I told you this was coming. I've got one more episode to film after this one, and then we'll be fully caught up on the series. And then I'm going to go through the standings, the stats. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about standings in this episode because we're ranking the teams, so it kind of matters where they're at in the standings. But I'm not going to spend too much time on this, especially not the back half of teams. And I hate that because obviously fans of the Marlins, for example, you want me to talk a little bit about them, and I might mention one or two things about some of these teams. But, if you're in the bottom, 8 of the league, there's not really much to say. You're just not doing very good. But we'll go ahead and do the power rankings. The top 10 was really difficult for me, especially in the American League, because I think every team has had the best, or not every team, but I think 3 or 4 teams have had the best record in the American League over the last week. It just keeps flip-flopping. So, and I think right now the Guardians have it. The Tigers. The Tigers. But I know the Guardians just had it 3 days ago. The Yankees had it at one point. And so it's definitely weird in the American League. The National League is pretty dominant right now, okay? The West is slowing down a little bit. But there's still a National League West team in the top of the power rankings, okay? Because I'm just not going to take them out. They're the best team in baseball. Their record is right there. They've got the third best record in baseball. So yeah, but we'll get to that. First, I'm just going to go ahead and hammer off the first, 6 or 7. And so, and last 30th, okay, the worst team in baseball, it's the Colorado Rockies. Okay, I think they've only won 4 games. They're obviously last in that loaded division. They might be on pace to do what the White Sox did last year, which was lose the most games in a single season in Major League Baseball history. They're not good, you guys. And that pitching is why. Because, if you look at some of their fielders they got, some of their hitters, they've got some decent names. They may not be performing at the level that they can, but that pitching is atrocious. They're last in basically everything. Okay, ERA, whip, which is walks and hits allowed per innings pitched, okay, in case you didn't know that. They're not striking people out, and so the Rockies, and they're in a hitter's park, okay? It's hard to pitch in that park. We've talked about that before. But, they have a 5-something ERA on the season. They're not any good. They're not going to get any better as the season goes on. And I think they're probably going to be last for most of these power rankings. So, we'll start off with the Rockies at 30. Now at 29, we'll go to the White Sox, okay? Which the White Sox are a little bit better, and they're not going to lose the same amount of games they did last year, okay? Especially because to start the season, their pitching was a lot better than it was supposed to be. Clearly, they're still not winning very many games. They're last in that division still, okay? The White Sox aren't any good. We're not going to pretend like they are, and so they're right above the Rockies at 29. All right, and next up at 28, we have the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're not good, again, you guys, and I want to like the Pirates. Okay, I really do, even though I'm around, Reds fans 24/7, because I love that park. I obviously love Paul Skeens, and he's been great to start the season. He's not unhittable, but they're just not good. They've got an injury to the pitchers, okay? They're dealing with an injury, and their lineup, while it can click sometimes, most of the time it's just not clicking, all right? Brian Reynolds isn't doing what he's supposed to do. O'Neal Cruz has actually been great to start the season. I love that. They're getting some production out of Andrew McCutchen, who is, going to retire in a year now. But it's just, they're not getting that big bat, okay? And that's what I've been begging them to do for 2 or 3 years now. They don't spend in free agency. I think if they would have brought in, a Kyle Tucker by trade, because you don't got to pay him this year, but you got to do what you can when you have a pitching rotation like they do, especially with Paul Skeens in the front. When Bubba comes up, okay, that prospect that is supposed to be also basically another Paul Skeens, not quite as good, but he's supposed to be good. Their pitching rotation might be the best in all of baseball. but they're not getting any hitting, and they're continuing to lose games. They're at the bottom of that division. The Pittsburgh Pirates are the 28th best team in baseball. Now, the next four was really tough for me, okay? But I'm going to explain. I'm going to name the four off and explain why I have it this way. So at 27, I've got the Twins. At 26, I have the Orioles. 25, I have the Marlins. And 24, I have the Nationals. Okay? And now the reason I have it this way, because the Twins are actually starting to win games. They started off horribly. Their offense is finally starting to click. They're getting some pitching production. So probably at the end of May, they're going to be back to at least a 500 record. They're only a couple games below it now. But they have the most talented roster out of these four teams by far. I don't think it's really close. And yet, last year they disappointed us. To start the season, they've been a huge disappointment. And so I have to put them this low because, guys, what are you doing out in Minnesota? Again, they're starting to click. But it's just when you have a roster like that and you're at one point, I think they were 10 games below 500, you can't do that. Okay, and so I have them at 27 for now. They'll move up, I'm sure. 26 with the Orioles. This is another thing with just like the Pirates, except it's the opposite. They have the hitting, but they don't have any pitching. Okay, Charlie Morton, he's done. I'm sorry, he's done. He's like 40 years old. He's got an 11 ERA on the season. They have that 34-year-old pitcher that they brought over, Sugano, I think is his name. He's not that great. I mean, he's okay. He's definitely not as bad as Morton. But you lose Corbin Burns, okay? Grayson Rodriguez is hurt to start the season. They don't know when he's going to be back. Probably not until June or July. You got to go out and get a pitcher, man. I mean, you've got to want to win. I don't care how good your lineup is. You can't be first in hitting, but then second to last in pitching and expect to win because that's what they are. They're 29th in basically everything. The Rockies are 30th. The Orioles are right there at 29, and it's frustrating to see. Okay, Adley Rutschman, he's not the guy. Okay, I'm sorry. I know he can't hit lefties to save his life, dude. He just can't do it. He's hitting 209 so far this season. And look, Jackson Holliday took a step up. They've obviously got Gunnar Henderson. Cedric Mullins, surprisingly, was off to that super hot start. He's slowed down a little bit. But again, the lineup's not the problem. But they're moving backwards. That's why I have them below the Marlins and the Nationals, okay? Because the Marlins and the Nationals, both young teams. Sure, they may not have the potential today. You can make the argument the Twins and the Orioles are today better than those two rosters. But when you have young kids, they click like that. And then suddenly, by the end of the season, the Marlins and the Nationals could easily be better than the Twins and the Orioles, okay? Because, yeah, the Orioles have Holiday, and they've got some young kids too, but they shouldn't be taking a step back, okay? They should be just as good as they were 3 years ago, but they're not. Okay, they're last in that division. I think they're 10-17, something like that. And I can't put the Orioles any higher. They're a disappointment, just like the Twins. It's frustrating to see that ownership needs to go out and get a pitcher today. There's no need. We're not waiting, okay? You either want to compete in the loaded AL East or you don't. And right now it's looking like they don't. Now we'll move up to the Marlins. And again, probably not better than these last two teams today, but when you look at the roster, you see all these young kids. They're pitching. Max Meyer's the real deal. Okay? He just is. I mean, he struck out 14 Reds over 6 innings, a week ago or whatever. I mean, they've got multiple pitchers like that. They're a little hurt. Okay? Sandy Alcantara, I think that's how you pronounce that, is back from injury, for the first time in like 2 years. But he hasn't clicked yet. But we know what he can be. He's won the Cy Young in the past. And so I have more faith in the Marlins right now than I do the Orioles, okay? And so I think this one might raise a couple eyebrows, but I feel comfortable with having the Marlins here. And their lineup, while it's probably one of the best when you look, or one of the worst when you look at it on paper, I think they have some potential there. So I have the Marlins at 25. And then again with the Nationals at 24, It's just the young kids, okay? C.J. Abrams. You've got James Wood, who's really clicking. I told you guys before the season I thought that outfield might be the best in baseball. It's not that, all right? Yeah, I spoke a little too soon. I got a little too hyped for these young kids, but James Wood is legit. Dylan Cruz had a horrific start to the season, okay? I mean, horrific start. He's starting to click. He went from like 0 home runs to 5 or 6 within, 2 weeks, okay? He's clicking, so they're getting that. They've got some really good young pitchers, okay? Mitchell Parker, Jake Irvin. So, yeah, they're starting to go a little bit. They're in a really tough division. They're probably going to finish 4th if I had to predict. Maybe last. I doubt that, but at least 4th. But, I mean, when you look at that division, they have to face the Phillies, the Mets, the Braves, who, again, are starting to get it going after that horrific start. But because of their young kids and because they're slowly going up, I feel comfortable having the Nationals at 24th. Next up, we have some teams in limbo, and I'm about to just fire them out right here. So at 23, we've got the Angels. 22, we've got the Cardinals. 21, we've got the Rays. 20, we've got the Royals. 19, we have the Brewers. And then 18, we have the A's. All right? And so basically all these teams are in the same exact position. They all have something you like about them, whether it be the pitching, the lineup, whether they have some power going, whether it's speed, the Brewers, for example, speed, okay, defense, but they're all good, but not good enough, if you get my drift, okay? They're all going to sit right there in the middle of their divisions. They're all going to be able to beat each other and the teams below them, but they're not going to be very good at beating the teams above them, okay? And that actually, I feel like, is a great way of explaining all these teams right here. All right, and so I would like to talk more about them. Unfortunately, I just don't think I really need to because there's nothing else to say. They're good enough to beat the teams below them and each other. They're not good enough to beat the teams above them, okay? And I thought the Brewers were going to be a little better than they performed. The defense hasn't looked good like it has in years past. They do have the speed. They've got Jackson Chourio, but the pitching, which is usually a plus for the Brewers, has kind of been a problem. They've been throwing out a lot of names out there that nobody's ever heard of. And I do like the A's. I think the A's may go up on the list as the season goes. I thought people were sleeping on them at the beginning of the season because Brent Rooker hasn't really even clicked. But they've still been winning some games. They've got Luis Severino, J.P. Sears. They've got some good pitching, okay? And then, of course, Lawrence Butler, Jacob Wilson, who just had his first walk the other day. The dude just hits, okay? He doesn't strike out, and he doesn't care to walk. He just hits, all right? And then they've got Nick Kurtz they just called up. They've got Shea Langeliers. They've got, obviously, at first base, Tyler Soderstrom, who's one of the best power hitters so far this season. So the A's have probably the biggest upside out of all these teams, which is why they're, of course, ranked the highest. But I'm just not going to spend too much time on them. The Royals have probably been the biggest disappointment out of this bunch. You look at their lineup, it was supposed to be top-heavy. Okay, we knew their pitching was going to be good, but their lineup's not been good at all. Not even the top. Bobby Witt Jr. has been raking. Other than that, Indy has been a big disappointment in the leadoff spot. The catcher just hasn't been there. Salvador Perez, he's just not, what he was last season. He could still click. We've seen him do it in the past, but he's been a disappointment. Vinny Pasquantino hasn't been there. I don't know what's going on with that. But yeah, so the A's have the biggest upside. I think the Royals are the biggest disappointment out of this bunch right here. But next up, we'll get to the team that is finally starting to go, but because of their horrid start of the season, I couldn't put them any higher, and that's the Braves sitting at 17. Look, their pitching's been, Chris Sale hasn't been it. Ronaldo Lopez is out for probably 90% of the year. They've got Spencer Strider back, although after one start, he went back on the injured list. They're dealing with injuries, okay? Obviously, their best player, Acuna Jr., is still not back. All right, we're not going to act like the Braves aren't dealing with injuries, guys. We're just, I get injuries happen to everybody, but the Braves suffer from it the most. They don't have their best team on the field so far this season, but they're starting to click, all right? Ozuna's doing good. We're seeing Matt Olson click. We're seeing Austin Riley click. That lineup, when it's all healthy, when it's all clicking, is the best in baseball. Okay? And so I feel comfortable having them here because they haven't performed so far this season, but I think they're coming, you guys. And in that division, it's going to be tough. I think they're already 8 games behind the Mets, something like that, because the Mets are just off to a wonderful start. But we've got plenty of season left, and I am a Braves believer. I had them winning that division going into the season. Don't know if that's going to happen, but to think they can't get a playoff spot, a wild card spot, I still believe in the Braves. So I feel comfortable having the Braves there. Next up, we have the Blue Jays at 16. I actually originally had them way up in 13, which way up, it's only 3 spots ahead. But I had them ahead of some pretty good teams, and then the last couple of days, they've just been losing. Okay, so they're 3-7 over their last 10. All right, they were first in the division or tied for first with the Yankees like a week ago or something like that, and they've just fallen off a cliff. And that's kind of what the Blue Jays do every year. That's why I'm surprised that Vlad signed that extension to stay there, although it was $500 million. He probably wasn't going to get that from anybody else. And it just, they continue to disappoint, man. And I get they're in that tough division, okay, but you got to be better, Blue Jays. You just have to be, especially when you've got a team that you've got. They've got some big names. George Springer was starting the season off hot. Obviously, we know what Vlad is. Bo was starting off the season hot, okay? And Alejandro Kirk, their catcher, is one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. He was hitting to start the season, and that's why they were off to that fast start, and it's just 3-7 over your last 10. Not going to do it. They're probably going to be lower next power rankings because, again, they just continue to disappoint, but not much more to say. I have the Blue Jays at 16. Next up at 15, I have the Houston Astros, who are kind of in limbo as well. They haven't really done anything to excite you. They've kind of just stayed right there in the middle of that division all season. There's plenty of season left. I wouldn't be surprised if they do what they did last year, wait till June and then just all of a sudden come out of nowhere. But they do have some question marks. Jose Altuve is playing left field. Okay, they've got Cam Smith. He's playing right field, and he's not off to a great start. That can always turn around. Christian Walker's been a disappointment so far this season. They have had some good pitching. Okay, Hunter Brown's arguably the best pitcher in the American League so far this season. All right, I mean, when you look at his numbers, he's off to a great start. Anytime he's on the mound, they're pretty much going to win that game. And Josh Hader's been great as their closer, okay? He's finally kind of clicked. He's coming into his own, but they're not excellent. They're just kind of middle tier. I still think they're going to continue to get better as the season goes on, though. So that's why I have the Astros in that spot at 15. Next up, at 14, we're going to go with the Philadelphia Phillies. And look, ask me 2 weeks ago, again, I probably would have had them a little higher, but to get swept against the Mets and to fall, 6 games back, however much it was, against a team that you absolutely need to compete with. I mean, this is the team that knocked you out of the playoffs last season. And look, it's just, you got to be able to at least win one of those games. They couldn't do it. I love their roster. They're pitching, although Aaron Nola has not been it, okay? I'm scared to even watch Aaron Nola pitch so far this season. But you look at the lineup, they're getting old, okay? They've got, 4 or 5 guys in that starting lineup that are at least 32 years old. That worries me a little bit. They could be going backwards, but when you look on paper, they still have the name, they still have the names. They've obviously got Bryce Harper. So I'm going to keep them here because I do think they can beat the teams below them. But that sweep after, the sweep by the Mets, that worries me a little bit. So I definitely couldn't put them any higher. Next up, coming off of a sweep in the good way, we have the Cincinnati Reds. And again, they're not the best team in their division, although they could potentially be if everything starts to click. They're getting some great starting pitching. Okay, I love their starting pitching. But the lineup still isn't quite there. Okay, we've got Matt McClain who keeps getting hurt. Ellie De La Cruz is obviously the best player on that team. Okay, but past that, I mean, I guess Gavin Lux has been okay for him. Jake Fraley's done some okay stuff. But I'm not going to put him any higher. I'm just not. Although they did just sweep the Rockies for 3 games. It's the Rockies. I want to give them their round of applause, but I just can't do much more than that because it is the Rockies. And so I'm okay with the Reds sitting here. I want to see them get higher, but their lineup's going to have to improve for that to happen. So the Reds at 13 for now. Next up at 12, I have the Boston Red Sox. And this is actually kind of low for me. I thought they were going to be much better than they've played so far. I thought by now they'd be leading the division over there in the AL East. They're not. They're close. I mean, they're in second place, but they're only a couple games above 500. Devers, he started off horribly. He kind of started to click, and I've said click so many times this episode. If any of you want to count how many times I say click and tell me, the number is going to be an insanely large amount. Sorry, it might be a little annoying to some of you, but yeah, I mean, the Red Sox are kind of half and half. Their lineup is getting some production, okay? They've all they're hot and cold. None of them is really all clicking at once. The pitching's kind of the same way. I can't believe how bad Tanner Houck's been to start the season. I thought he was going to be, the number 2, number 3 starter there. The only real starter that's been, consistently great is Garrett Crochet, which is what we expected from him. We've seen Walker Buehler have 1 or 2 good starts, but we've also seen him get blown up. Tanner Houck has just consistently been blown up. So, yeah, I mean, they're not performing how I expected them to be. The season's still early. Nobody is really running away with the AL East. I mean, the Yankees are only a couple spots ahead of the Red Sox right now. It's mainly the NL, up above at the very top. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't really put the Red Sox any higher because they've underperformed, I think, so far. So Red Sox at 12. Now at 11, we have the Texas Rangers. And again, a week or two, they would have been higher. They have the lineup, although I'm pretty sure Corey Seager's hurt. I think he's on the IL again. Might be wrong. Marcus Semien just doesn't have it anymore. I mean, I don't want to say that because, we've seen what he could be, but he's been underperforming. Garcia's been okay. Jake Berger isn't hitting. I mean, their rotation, Jack Leiter's been okay. Kumar Rocker has been good. Tyler Mahle has been also probably the best pitcher in the American League. It's him and Hunter Brown right there at the top. They love to see that. They've gotten some production out of Jacob deGrom, not a super, large amount. He's not an absolute unhittable pitcher right now. They're just trying to get some length out of him, see how deep into the season he can get. But yeah, I mean, they were, again, a week or two probably going to be higher. They were first in that division. But the Mariners jumped over them, which the Mariners, spoiler alert, are next at number 11, so we'll get to them. But yeah, I don't know. The Rangers are they're doing better than they were last year. They've definitely found their identity, I think, again. But, there's not a standout team in the American League. So with having the Rangers at number 11 and then the Mariners right in front of them at number 10, mainly because the Mariners obviously are winning that division. We know they have the pitching, although Logan Gilbert just went on the IL, for the first time in his career. That's going to hurt him because they win the majority of the games he pitches, okay? So going into May, that's not good. Luis Castillo is kind of taking a step back. You still got Brian Wu, who's doing okay. And so I have confidence in the Mariners. Otherwise, they wouldn't be at 10. Okay, I do have confidence in them. But their lineup is, you don't really know what you're getting. I don't trust their defense. I don't trust their lineup on a daily basis. Although, obviously, you've got guys that can get it done. Julio Rodriguez, again, is starting the season off slow. I think he's not the guy he's supposed to be. I get a lot of slack for saying that. That's just how I feel. You look at his career statistics. He's not worthy. He's not an MVP player, okay? And I think that's what people expected from him. He's still young. We'll see if he can get better, in the month of May. But going into that month right now, the Mariners are at 10. And honestly, you could probably flip-flop them in the Rangers. I just gave it to the Mariners right now because they're first in that division. So, yeah, let's move on to number 9. And in the number 9 spot, we have the Cleveland Guardians. Again, this was a team that would have been higher a week or two ago. In fact, I had them written in as my number 7 spot, and I talked to my buddy Alex about it, and he kind of convinced me to put them down lower. And obviously, you're going to be a harsher critic on your favorite team, so he's always very, hard on the Guardians, but he had some good points. I think that in that division, with the way the Tigers are playing right now, it's definitely hard to look at them as like a true winner of that division, because the Tigers almost just seem so much better than them. They really do, at least right now. But still, I like the Guardians. Their pitching hasn't quite been what it's supposed to be. Tanner Bybee hasn't really clicked yet, and he was their ace last year. Emmanuel Clase is like Devin Williams in the fact that he just doesn't have it, and it could take time. Maybe he's got an injury he's not telling people about, but it's scary. When you bring in your closer to close games, you shouldn't have to panic. I feel like, especially, talking to Alex and kind of watching how the Guardians do things, you panic when they bring out Clase. That's not good. It was the complete opposite last year. He was the most confident closer in the game. He was unhittable. And then in the playoffs, he started to get hit, and then it's just been unraveling since then. So I can't put the Guardians any higher. I will say Kyle Manzardo has been a nice addition, considering they got rid of Josh Naylor, who has been doing good for the Diamondbacks. So it's good to, when you get rid of one, the next guy up is doing it. But other than Quan, Ramirez, Manzardo, I don't think they're really getting much production, okay? Bo Naylor, isn't a solid hitter. Joe Kinsey Noel, Big Christmas, he's unfortunately just not doing it. And so the Guardians, while I think that division is the closest in baseball, the AL Central, maybe the NL Central is, but those Central divisions are super close. The Tigers are so far ahead of the Guardians right now that I can't put the Guardians any higher. So I have them at 9. And then at number 8, we've got the Arizona Diamondbacks, who I have been big on for the last couple years. I predict them to make it to the World Series. That was my prediction, okay? I'm still confident in that. Their offense is still absolutely elite. All right, they've got Corbin Carroll's back to MVP form. I bet on him to win National League MVP. I'm feeling really good about that. Okay, I mean, he's doing better than Ohtani is to start the season. They're getting production out of Suarez at third base. He's got 10 home runs or something like that on the year. I think Ketel Marte's been hurt. I don't even think he's been playing. So, I mean, and obviously they got Corbin Burns, who still hasn't fully clicked yet. Zach Gallen's got me worried. He's definitely had some rough starts to start the season. But overall, the way that offense plays, they're always in games no matter how much they're down. They've lost to some really good teams, you guys, okay? It's not like they're facing teams like the Rockies, okay? I mean, so yeah, it's definitely been a tough go for the Diamondbacks. They're only a couple games above 500. Okay, and they're in that loaded division. They're 4th right now, I think. But that's, the 3 other teams that are above them in that division are ahead of them in the rankings because they're just better, at least right now. But I have confidence in the Diamondbacks. I think they're going to, continue to go up as the season goes on. But right now, I have to put them at 8. And then at number 7, we have the New York Yankees. And I was actually hesitant about this because I'm also hard on the Yankees, like every fan is hard on their team, because I just don't think that, well, I mean, to be fair, we might be overperforming. I didn't think we'd be first in the division, okay? I want to say we're a couple games above 500. I think we're like 16-11 or something like that, and we're first in that division, but there's some major red flags, okay? Anytime we face a team that has somewhat of a decent pitcher, we can't hit. Okay, we beat up on the bad teams. We lose to the good teams. All right, we lost a series to the Guardians, and luckily we're beating teams in our division. Okay, we just won the series against the Blue Jays, which I think was very important. But the pitching is extremely thin. The pitching has me worried. Carlos Rodon is like, he gives you 5 amazing innings, and then in that 6th inning he gives up 7 runs. Okay, obviously. We actually just announced that Devin Williams isn't the closer anymore. We're going to go with Luke Weaver, which has me a lot more confident because Luke Weaver is that guy. Okay, he's legit. And Devin Williams can be too, But to start the season, he's got like an 11 ERA and 12 innings or something like that. He needs to get out of the closer spot. So I'm happy about that. Judge has obviously been the best hitter in baseball to start the season. Paul Goldschmidt's got the second best average in baseball. He's got no pop. But past them two guys, I mean, I'm worried about this lineup. Jazz Chisholm hasn't clicked, okay? I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if he's just swinging for too much power. Austin Wells really hasn't clicked. Cody Bellinger he's hitting below 200, I think. He looks awful. And he doesn't normally do good in cold weather, so maybe as the summer hits, he'll do better. But that's not really an excuse. You just got done playing for 2 years in Chicago, and you looked fine, dude. So that definitely has me worried. It's not a deep lineup, okay? It's really not. Dominguez has been okay. Trent Grisham has been amazing, all right? But Anthony Volpe just can't hit the ball. He's an elite Gold Glover, shortstop, can't hit the ball for anything. Max Fried has been our best pitcher, which was expected. But there's some major red flags with this team. But since they're still in first in that division, and, I think they're 6-4 in the last 10, I feel comfortable having them at 7. But I don't know, man. It's probably the least confident I am in a spot, this high on the list. That's a good way to put it, I think. Now at number 6, we're going to go ahead with the Detroit Tigers. And yeah, the Tigers are doing it, you guys. Their lineup hasn't fully clicked yet. Okay, Riley Green hasn't been as good as Riley Green can be. Gleyber Torres missed some time, although now that he's back, he's hitting. But their team ERA is second in all of baseball, okay, behind a team that's ranked higher than them on the list. And I told you guys going into the season, I was confident in their pitching. They got Jack Flaherty. They have the Cy Young Award winner from last year. We all know what Tariq Skubal can do. They've got Jackson Jobe now. I mean, this team they're on the up and up, and they're going to be exciting to watch the rest of the year. And honestly, I could easily see them being moved up. It's just with the National League and the way they're all playing right now, I couldn't put them any higher than 6. But guys, the Tigers, watch out for them, okay? The pitching is great. I love starting pitching. You guys know that by now. So I feel very happy with having the Tigers at 6. Now on to number 5. And this is where it started to get hard because the last 5 teams are all National League, okay? And so I might do it to where I just name you all the top 5 teams and you guys kind of just decide where you think they sit. I'll tell you why I think they're, but at number 5, we're going to go ahead with the San Diego Padres, all right? At number 4, we're going to go the Chicago Cubs. Number 3, we've got the San Francisco Giants. And number 2, we've got the New York Mets. And then number 1, we have the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'll start with the Dodgers. Are they performing like the number 1 team in baseball right now? No, the Mets are. But roster-wise, the Dodgers are just the best team in baseball. Okay, I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. They've got some pitching injuries. Tyler Glasnow can't stay healthy. They just put Blake Snell on the injured list. Ohtani is doing good. He's not great, though. Okay, he hasn't started the season off great. They're going to continue to get better. Second, with the Mets, I don't like the Mets. Okay, I'm a Yankees fan. Sorry. Spoiler alert. I just don't like them. But I'm not going to sit here and act like they're not off to a wonderful start. Okay? They've got double the amount of wins than they do losses. Okay? They're sitting first in the NL East right now, 19-9. They've got a 4-game lead over the second-place Phillies. All right? Their pitching is first in the league in ERA. It's absolutely unbelievable because I went into the season and I thought their pitching rotation was the biggest question mark. I mean, Clay Holmes moving from a closer to a starting pitcher, he's good. Of course he is. All right? Griffin Canning was so bad that he got kicked off of his team. His team did not want him. All right? Mets get him. He's great. Okay? And they don't even have Sean Manaea, who's hurt right now. Okay? And they're just... Kota Senga has obviously been good. He's a great pitcher. Okay? Nobody's surprised by that. It's just, my gosh, the Mets are just... They're doing great things right now. And Juan Soto is arguably the worst hitter at the top of that lineup right now. Okay, Lindor's getting going. Juan Soto's still getting on base like he always does, but I think he's only hitting like 250, which is still good. I think anything 250 or above is good. a lot of people would disagree with me, but in modern day baseball, that's just how it goes. Still, for Juan Soto, that's kind of the lowest bar that he has is 250. Pete Alonso is like first in the league in OPS, on base plus slugging. Okay. I'm going to read his stats off to you right now because he's just doing amazing things, which I love to see because I was so surprised it took him that long to sign with a team. And he only got a 1-year deal from the Mets, dude. So he's going to get paid this offseason because right now, Pete Alonso, across all of Major League Baseball, not just the National League, he's third in on-base percentage. He's second in OPS, only behind Aaron Judge. No surprise. He's third in slugging percentage. He's 10th in average. He's third in RBIs. I mean, guys, he's off to a wonderful start. Okay? And then not to mention, Mark Vientos just doesn't know how to hit a ball right now. And he was supposed to be one of the big guys in that lineup. So if him and Juan Soto get going, they might end up with the best record in baseball. And I hate saying that as a Yankees fan, but I'm not going to sit here and lie. All right, the Mets are a team you absolutely have to watch. All right, and they're just blowing people's minds right now. And so Dodgers at 1, Mets at 2nd. You could easily flip-flop those. I just know the Dodgers on paper have the best, the best roster. But the Mets right now are performing the best. So then at 3, I have the San Francisco Giants, all right? They're 19-10. They're a half a game up on the Dodgers, okay, which that's probably going to change in a day or two. But they're doing really well. And I was a person that was high on them going into the season. I think people had them underrated, okay? And it's clicking for them, all right? They're getting some starts out of Robbie Ray. Verlander is finally getting to go after he got hammered like his first 3 or 4 starts. His last 2 have been better. All right, they obviously have Logan Webb, who is just the definition of an ace. 200 innings pitched a season. His ERA right now is below 2. He's made every start. I mean, the guy's just legit. Okay, so that's a solid rotation. Then you look at their lineup. All right, you got Jung-Ho Lee, who's like second or third in average or something like that. He's up there. Okay, he's having a wonderful year. You got Matt Chapman. Willie Adames hasn't really done anything yet. You got Wilmer Flores, who probably should have retired 3 or 4 years ago. But now, all of a sudden, he's having a career year. He leads the league in RBIs so far. So, I mean, they're getting production from guys that other teams probably wouldn't get production from. And that's how you win baseball games, okay? Especially in that rotation. So, I honestly originally had the Giants at 1 just because of how much I think they're underrated. But if I'm realistically speaking, they're not the best team in baseball. So I'm okay with having them at 3 here. They could easily fall down a week from now, but they could easily also go up. I mean, they're beating good teams. And so, yeah, the Giants at 3. Next up at 4, I have the team that I am probably rooting for most in the National League, which hurts all Reds fans when I say this, the Chicago Cubs. I'm sorry, you guys. I like the Chicago Cubs, okay? Shota Imanaga is my dude. That's who I like to root for. He's been great on the season, okay? That rotation, they lost Justin Steele for the season, and they're like 17-10. And every game they've played has been against a team above 500. They're the only team in baseball with that statistic. Every single team they've played this season has a record above 500, which I keep saying that. Some of you might not. That's basically same wins, same losses, which means every team they've played has had more wins than they have losses. And they're 17-10. They're beating good teams. That's what you want out of your team. All right, so the Chicago Cubs are legit. Kyle Tucker has an argument for National League MVP. He's going to all year as long as he stays healthy. They're getting production out of Ian Happ. They're getting production out of Pete Crow Armstrong. He's off to an amazing start. They obviously love that. Okay, he's killing it to start the season. They had to send Matt Shaw, their third baseman, down because he was struggling. But, they're right there, you guys. They have a great record in a weak division. And so I had to put the Cubs this high, man. When you're beating teams that are beating other teams, I mean, that says a lot. And their starting rotation isn't at its, highest strength. And I think their bullpen has been pretty great, but I think there's also some people in the bullpen that have been blowing it. But 17-10 against teams above 500. I love the Cubs. Hopefully they're right here all season. We'll have to see. But we'll finish things off explaining my fifth spot, which is the San Diego Padres. They're third in team ERA right now. They're fifth in team average. So, I mean, they're doing both things you need to do at an elite level. Okay, they're 18-11, 18-10, somewhere around there. They're third in that division, but the Giants, them, and the Dodgers are all within a game and a half of each other. Okay, so they're right there with those two teams. The Padres are playing great baseball. They've got Fernando Tatis. They've got Manny Machado. All right, they're going to continue to be good. I think Jackson Merrill did just go on the injured list, okay, so that's going to hurt a little bit. But they've got Dylan Cease. They've got Michael King. We thought those two guys were going to get traded this offseason. I definitely did. They had a lot of drama going into the season. But, to see where they're at so far a month into the season, I think is definitely, a good sign, especially for Padres fans. And I would probably have them higher if the NL just wasn't so loaded, man. I mean, it's incredible what they're doing in that, in that league. But still, the Padres are a good team. I feel good about having them in the fifth spot. Again, they could either go up or they could go down. But right now, I think they're on the trend up. Okay, I really do. It just depends on, if anybody in that division starts to falter. If the Giants, if they play the Giants and, get 2 out of 3 from the Giants or sweep the Giants, or same thing with the Dodgers, then, I mean, just like that, the Padres are right in the top 3. You know what I mean? So they're right there. Keep an eye on all these top 5 teams, man, even the top 10. Because for you to be in the top 10 of baseball, you got to be doing something really good. And that's what we love to see as baseball fans. So, that's my power rankings, though. And I feel pretty good about some of it. The middle and kind of the 10 to 5 spot, between all those AL teams right on the outside, definitely was a little difficult for me, but I appreciate you guys for watching. If you disagree or you agree with some of them, comment. Let me know. I love hearing your guys' thoughts. And just stay tuned. I've got one more series recap left, which should be out Tuesday or Wednesday. And then you'll get the, updated standings. You'll get some stat leaders, and which I talked about a little bit today. But just stay tuned, you guys. Thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and I hope you guys enjoyed.